I never imagined that I would be sharing something like this on Reddit, but here I am, hoping to shed light on the story of how my own parents stole my $120,000 0 cents MBA fund and used it to finance my sister Ashley's dream house. It's a betrayal that I still can't quite wrap my mind around, and the entire situation feels unreal. Let me walk you through how this nightmare unfolded. My grandparents were always well off and placed an immense value on education. They believed in hard work, saving money, and investing in the future. I didn't see them often as they lived in another state, but whenever I did, they would always express their concern for my future. "Education is the one thing no one can ever take from you," my grandmother used to say. Ironically, those words have never felt so meaningful as they do now. Sadly, my grandfather passed away 3 years ago, and though it was a difficult time, my grandmother remained our rock until we lost her last year. On the day of her death, I was at home, reflecting on every letter she'd ever sent me. Little did I know, she and Grandpa had been working on something much larger for my future. Along with heartfelt life lessons, my grandmother had included small checks for my education fund. When the will was read, everything appeared fair. My parents inherited their savings and their home, while Ashley received all the family treasures and Grandma's jewelry, worth tens of thousands of dollars. For me, however, I received a sizable education fund, money intended for my MBA. The will was explicit. This fund was to be used solely for my schooling. My parents were assigned to oversee the fund until I needed it. I was grateful, thinking how fortunate I was that my grandparents had taken such serious consideration for my future. However, looking back, I should have noticed the warning signs. Ashley, my older sister, has always been the golden child. I don't say that out of bitterness, but rather as a fact. From my earliest memories, she was the one who received the most attention. She was the shining star in the family, gifted, hardworking, and always excelling. I remember my high school graduation well. I had just won a major science competition, received a full scholarship to college, and was named valedictorian. Yet when I looked to my parents during my speech, I noticed they were more focused on their phones than on me. That night, they were over the moon when Ashley, who had dropped out of college twice, revealed she was considering a career in teaching. "You're amazing with kids," they gushed. As for me, I got a quick, "good job," and that was it. This pattern continued throughout my life. I worked hard, earned a place at a prestigious company, and climbed the corporate ladder over the past 6 years. Now, as a senior project manager, I oversee a team and manage multi-million-dollar accounts. But no matter how much I achieved, to my parents, I was always just the sensible one, the one who got by because I was naturally smart. Ashley, on the other hand, changed careers several times before landing a teaching position. Nathan, her fiancé, is a zookeeper at a local zoo. Though they are both decent people, their combined income is modest at best. Despite their struggles, my parents constantly talked about how Ashley and Nathan needed help buying a house. Every family dinner became an ongoing debate about how expensive real estate was and how they were wasting money on rent. Even though Ashley and Nathan were in their mid-30s, my parents still treated them like young kids who couldn't make it on their own. "You deserve a nice home," they would say, while shaking their heads at the market. It was clear to me that they had more empathy for Ashley and Nathan's situation than for mine. A month ago, I began applying for my MBA program. This was something I had been working toward for years. I had done my research, built my career, and maintained a perfect work record. The MBA would be my ticket to the upper echelons of management at my company, and I was determined to make it happen. But there was one problem. The application fees for these prestigious schools were exorbitant, and I needed to know how much of my education fund was available. When I brought it up to my parents, their response was odd. "Don't worry about it," my dad said, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. "Just focus on your applications. We'll talk about it when the time comes." I brushed it off, thinking perhaps they were just being disorganized. But a week later, I brought it up again, more directly. And that's when they dropped the bombshell. "We used the MBA money for Ashley," my mom said nonchalantly. "She's buying a house with Nathan and she needs it right now. You've already had your chances," she added. I couldn't believe it. My mind raced, and I demanded to know how they could possibly tamper with the funds my grandparents had set aside for my education. The will had been clear about how that money was supposed to be used. But my mother simply shrugged, saying, "You'll figure it out. It's not like you can't borrow money like everyone else." When I suggested taking legal action, they laughed at me. They laughed. "With what money?" my dad sneered. "A lawyer's out of your price range." The humiliation I felt was indescribable. I stood there, stunned, as the realization hit me. My future, my career, my education, they didn't matter to them. It was all about Ashley. They didn't care about my success. I was just the sensible one, the one who didn't need help. I barely slept that night. All I could think about was how my grandparents had trusted my parents to act in good faith, to follow their wishes. But my parents didn't care about that. They didn't care about me. They never had. The next morning, I decided enough was enough. I went to speak with my boss, Mr. Thompson, who had always been more of a mentor than just a boss. He encouraged me to pursue my dreams, and he had connections with top law firms. I also reached out to my Uncle Jake, my dad's cousin. He had always been a successful businessman, and though he wasn't around much when I was growing up, he always showed a genuine interest in me and my future. When I explained what had happened, he responded exactly as I had hoped. "I always knew your parents played favorites," he said, "but stealing from their own daughter? That crosses every line." He assured me he would handle the legal fees and get things moving. Uncle Jake didn't waste any time. He brought in a team of attorneys specializing in estate law, along with a forensic accountant, and they quickly discovered that my parents had been moving money from my education fund to Ashley's account for months. It was a well-organized scheme. And then the real game changer happened, Uncle Jake's intervention. He was ruthless, and it worked. The legal team quickly gathered enough evidence to prove that my parents had been stealing from my fund. When my parents' attorney contacted me to negotiate a family settlement, Uncle Jake shot them down, telling them in no uncertain terms that they would either return every penny plus interest and penalties, or they would face criminal charges. I still remember the shock I felt when my parents began to send me messages. They begged me to drop the legal action and promised to cover some of my MBA expenses if I did, but they were too late. I had already sent everything to Uncle Jake's legal team. Uncle Jake's response was decisive. "No negotiations. You will either return the money or face the consequences." And it wasn't long before the authorities started their investigation. My parents' illegal actions were coming to light, and there was no way for them to escape it. Ashley, of course, tried to distance herself from the situation. She sent me a long email claiming she had no idea where the money for the house had come from. She admitted she was complicit, but didn't try to make things right. Uncle Jake's advice was clear. Send her email to the attorneys. It's proof she knew about the money and did nothing. Now my parents are scrambling. They've been forced to confront their mistakes, and my future is finally back on track. As for me, I'm moving forward, stronger, more empowered, and ready to claim what was always mine. This journey has been difficult, but it's also been a wake-up call. I'm done being the quiet, overlooked daughter. My future is mine to control, and with Uncle Jake's unwavering support, I'm making sure I'm no longer a victim of my parents' favoritism. Stay tuned for the next update as this story continues to unfold. The journey I've been through has been nothing short of transformative but also painful. After everything that's happened, I can finally breathe. My parents, in their quest to help my sister, stole my $120,000 0-cents MBA fund, the very money my grandparents had set aside for my education. The betrayal cut deep, but with the help of my Uncle Jake, justice was not only served, but it also led to a level of satisfaction I hadn't anticipated. Here's how it all unfolded. When my parents first decided to embezzle my education fund to help my sister Ashley buy a house, I was floored. The money my grandparents had given me for my MBA was supposed to be a springboard to my career, something that would elevate me to executive leadership. The situation was complicated by the fact that my parents had power of attorney over my grandmother's estate. Little did I know, they had already been moving funds to Ashley months before my grandmother passed away. At first I was in shock, and then the anger started to set in. But what shocked me even more was how my parents tried to justify their actions. When I confronted them, they laughed it off as if it wasn't a big deal. They told me to figure it out, and even mocked the idea of me taking legal action. It wasn't just about the money, it was about how they treated me like an afterthought, as if my future didn't matter. I wasn't going to let this go. I reached out to my boss, Mr. Thompson, who had been a mentor to me over the years. He not only offered me his full support, but also connected me with a top law firm that specialized in estate law. In addition, I contacted Uncle Jake, my dad's cousin, a successful businessman who had always treated me with respect. Uncle Jake immediately took charge, bringing in a team of forensic accountants and attorneys. They uncovered a lot more than we anticipated. My parents had been systematically siphoning funds from my education fund long before my grandmother had passed. Uncle Jake's intervention was the key. He was ruthless in his pursuit of justice. When my parents' attorney tried to negotiate a settlement, Jake shut it down completely. There would be no discussion unless my parents returned every penny, with interest, and paid for all the legal fees. He even threatened to have their assets frozen. In the face of this pressure, their lawyers started to unravel, realizing how deep the financial misconduct went. Ashley, at first complicit, began to backpedal when she realized the legal implications of accepting stolen funds. She hired her own attorney, and soon there was a rift between her and my parents. The entire situation escalated, and the fallout affected everyone involved. Even their social standing began to crumble. My father's country club membership was revoked, and my mother was ousted from her volunteer positions. Their friends and community members started to distance themselves. The shame of what they'd done was too much to ignore. But the real satisfaction came when the forensic team revealed that my parents had been fabricating false stories to family members for months, claiming that I had willingly given my MBA fund to Ashley. They had been preparing their defense by spreading lies, but all their stories began to unravel under the weight of the evidence. At the deposition, my father tried to maintain his usual haughty demeanor, but the proof of their scheme left him stammering. My mother, on the other hand, completely lost control when it became clear they had no intention of repaying the stolen money. They had been attempting to rewrite the facts, but it was too late. Uncle Jake's team demanded full restitution, including interest and the legal fees they owed us. There was no room for negotiation. My parents would also have to sign a written admission of their wrongdoing and agree to no further contact with me. Every attempt to use family members as intermediaries was recorded as harassment, further proving their attempts to manipulate the situation. The court hearings culminated in a final judgment that hit my parents hard. They were ordered to return every penny of the stolen money, along with hefty punitive damages. The court found their actions especially despicable because of how premeditated they had been. My parents were forced to sell the house they inherited from my grandparents to pay the fines. The irony of it all wasn't lost on anyone. They had gone from being respected members of the community to being social pariahs. The consequences were just as severe for Ashley and her fiancé Nathan. The mortgage company revoked their loan approval once they learned the down payment was made with stolen money. Ashley's career as a principal came crashing down when the school board removed her from her position, citing ethical concerns. Nathan faced similar consequences at his job. The stress of everything took a toll on their relationship, and they ultimately called off their engagement. Throughout this entire ordeal, Uncle Jake's plan for their complete legal and social ruin was executed flawlessly. He set up a family meeting where he laid out the timeline of their deceit in front of the entire extended family. The response was unanimous. They were ostracized by everyone, including my mother's sister, who had always supported them. It was clear that their actions had shattered any remaining trust within the family. As for me, the outcome couldn't have been more rewarding. I not only got my full MBA fund back, but I was also accepted into a prestigious MBA program on a merit scholarship. My employer, recognizing my professionalism and strength throughout this ordeal, has promised me an executive position once I graduate. Uncle Jake, who has been more of a mentor than I ever imagined, is now introducing me to his business network and discussing investment opportunities for the future. I've moved into a new apartment in a gated community where my parents are kept at bay. The doorman has been instructed to refuse them entry, and all their communications go directly to our legal department. I can finally breathe easy, knowing that justice has been served. My parents are left to face the consequences of their actions, and I'm moving forward, stronger and more determined than ever. As I prepare to begin my MBA, I'm reminded of my grandmother's words. Education is the one thing nobody can ever take away from you. She was right. With her foresight and Uncle Jake's assistance, I've not only protected my future, but also delivered a powerful lesson to my parents about what happens when you betray the ones who trust you the most. This chapter of my life is now closed, and while the journey wasn't easy, I'm at peace knowing that justice has been done. Thank you all for your support along the way. I'm ready for the next chapter, and nothing is going to stop me. The key lesson from this story is the importance of standing up for oneself, even when faced with betrayal by those closest to us. In life, we may encounter situations where people we trust, whether family, friends, or colleagues, disappoint or hurt us. However, it is crucial to remember that our self-worth is not defined by others' actions. This story teaches that it's never too late to assert our rights, seek justice, and reclaim what is rightfully ours. The protagonist's determination to fight for her education fund despite the emotional and financial setbacks demonstrates the power of resilience and the importance of maintaining integrity in the face of adversity. For older adults, this story serves as a reminder that we always have the ability to take control of our lives, no matter how challenging the circumstances. The lesson here is that we must not allow the wrongdoings of others to define our future. Whether in family matters or beyond, it's vital to uphold one's values and seek support when needed, as true strength lies in knowing when to stand firm and when to seek help. With the right support system and a strong sense of self-worth, we can overcome even the most difficult situations, ensuring that our dignity and peace of mind are preserved. Thank you so much for watching. If you found value in today's video, please comment 1 below to let us know. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and share it with anyone who might benefit from the message. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings about the video. How did it resonate with you? Please share in the comments, and let's keep the conversation going. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.